Hey guys, so this is my Salamangreat deck profile that I brought to Toronto Regionals last week. I managed to get my invite with this. It was an over 300 person event, so top 48 got their invite. I managed to get 38th place, so not too shabby if I say so with this deck. One of my favorites. It performed pretty well overall. Matchup wise, I was up against 5 Voiceless, 1 Flu, 1 Cash, 1 Lab, and then in the top tables it was a Runic Stun. My losses were to Voiceless, Runic Stun, and the Flu. Overall, the deck performed really well, even though it was mostly geared for Snake Eye. It still managed to do well in all the other matchups. I think I even lost most of my dice rolls, like 6 or 7 of them. So honestly, for going second most of the day, not bad. I'm going to go over how this build, the Pure Fire build with Salamangreat of Fire, compares to the Lady Debug, like Pure Cybers kind of build, and why I chose this, and what you could do if you wanted to build the deck, as well as some changes that I kind of wanted to make after the event. So let's just get into it. So to start off, Pure Fire, you got to be playing 3 of the Salamangreat of Fire. This card is crazy. It just says search a Salamangreat on normal summon, and then it has this somewhat niche graveyard effect of when a Cyberse battles, you can destroy your Cyberse at the start of the damage step. He's just a crazy starter. He does lock you into fire, which is kind of the downside. You get less ceiling and less generic options with him. But him being a Salamangreat is huge for some of the options that I'm playing. And the graveyard effect actually does come up. A lot of the times you can push for game because they don't think you have lethal on board. You use his effect in damage step and bring back the Raging Phoenix to go for the lethal shot. So overall, this card is pretty crazy. Insane starter. And then obviously, the best card of the deck, 3 Salamangreat Gazelle. It's been the best card since 2019. It is still the best card. Great extender, great starter, gets you your disruptions in grave, gets you your extenders in grave. Salamangreat Gazelle will probably forever be the heart and soul of the deck. No less than 3. We're also on 3 of these Salamangreat Spinny. This is just the freest extender. You can discard it for a lot of the effects like Signet Mining and Foxy. It just comes back for free. Even if you get ashed on one of these better starters like Gazelle or Fire, this is still great because this can go into the Fire Charmer to punish the Ash by itself. I've seen some builds cut it down to 2. I think it's just really good fodder and like a pretty decent draw along with your other cards, so I'd still play 3. In terms of the 1 of Salamangreats, we've got 1 Weasel, 1 Foxy, 1 Jack Jaguar, and a little unusual pick, 1 Salamangreat Fowl. So Weasel is definitely the best extender of the deck. If you have 2 Salamangreats in graveyard, this will special summon itself from hand, and then if one is summoned from the extra deck, you can bottom this card, give your opponent a Salamangreat, and draw a card. This is how you beat Nibiru now. If they nib you before you get to Princess, you can special summon this, use an extender from the graveyard, and use the nib token to go into Fire Charmer, into the Promethean, and just keep comboing. If they nib you after Princess, this monster triggers Promethean Princess because it is specialing a monster to your opponent's field, so you can bring it back as a Link 3 and still go into your Raging Phoenix. This card is insane. It lets you even lock your opponent if you're on like Rivalry or Gozen by giving them stuff. It is the best extender of the deck, but it's also highly searchable and doesn't really do things to start the combos, so it's a perfectly great 1-of. Similarly, Salamangreat Foxy, this dude put in the overtime during the event. So Salamangreat Foxy can discard a card while it's in graveyard to, specifically a Salamangreat card, to special summon it and destroy a face-up spell and trap on the field. There has to be a face-up spell and trap to activate that effect, but that's really easy with Sanctuary or whatever your opponent has. Like, there's so many field spells and continuous spells in the format. Overall, this guy was the MVP, breaking the Voiceless barrier spell card, like constantly, or the trap card. He was insane. This is also your out to like Floodgates back when Summon Limit was legal, so this card is pretty insane. Jaguar is also a great extender. It shuffles back a Salamangreat to summon to a link point. This is how you recycle all your extra deck pieces. It's a 4 for rank 4 combos and like other builds, but it's just honestly a great extender. This lets you recycle like your Phoenixes and your Wolves, so you can get away with playing 2. And then Foul. This one is a little more unorthodox. This one doesn't really generate advantage, it's just a hand extender when you summon a Salamangreat. What I like about Foul in this build is that you can chain block fire as your starter with this. It's also a big stat line, so you can immediately threaten SP Little Knight. So honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of Foul in this build, but if you're playing the other builds, I would absolutely cut it. And there's another card I'll talk about at the end that I might honestly cut this for. That does it for the Salamangreat monsters. Let's go on to the spells. One Salamangreat Sanctuary, it's the field spell, search up Balinks, lets you relink. Pretty simple, always play one. 3 of these Salamangreat Circles. So this is an amazing rota, it's a quick play, search any Salamangreat. It has another more niche effect where you can protect a relinked Salamangreat from monster effects. That one doesn't come up too much, but it's good protection if they're trying to out your Phoenix on their turn. But generally, this is just a crazy rota that dodges Droll. You got 3 Signet Mining, which I actually think is just as good as a rota, even though you do have to discard a card to search. What makes this insane is that by discarding a Salamangreat and searching Gazelle, you can trigger the Gazelle that you searched on a new chain. So this lets you play without using your normal summon, or if your normal summon gets disrupted. I genuinely think this card is really good to play through Disruption. I would honestly never play less than 3. 1 copy of the Will of the Salamangreat. Pretty standard card, it's just a reborn, and if you have a relinked Salamangreat, you can special summon up to its link rating. So with Phoenix, that's basically Soul Charge for 4. It can also summon from hand too, in case you don't have stuff in graveyard and just need to offload guys in your hand. This is also part of the Violet Chimera OTK, so you absolutely need to play this in this build. I do know some other builds have cut it though. The 40th card, this was kind of a last minute addition. It was alright. Monster Reborn. This is just to steal like opponents' Promethean Princesses, Garunixes, or just help you extend if you get hand trapped. It was okay. I didn't really want to throw in like a one of hand trap or single talents. I don't think it's too great in this build. But this card was alright. I would probably drop it though in the future. I don't think it's too crazy. In terms of the trap cards, we're playing 1 Roar and 1 Rage. These are just your disruptions. This is an Omni Negate that resets itself when you relink, and this is pop up to your link rating for a relinked one. It can also just discard one to pop, discard a Salamangreat specifically. But yeah, they're both really crazy. I've seen some builds put this in like the side or just cut it. I think you need the extra disruption. The M board is a little too weak without it. But yeah, these cards are great. Pretty standard for the actual package for the core. In terms of non-engine, we were on 16 non-engine cards. The one called by, just because there's so many hand traps this format, we're on our 3 common Ash Blossom from the original Salad structure deck. It negates better because of that. But yeah, Ash Blossom was pretty good. Even though there's a lot of fires in this format, you're already playing a fire deck, so they can kind of punish you with Hita, at least when you go first. But yeah, Ash is pretty good, and there are lines to search Ash in this deck with a card in the extra deck, so it's really good. You can also recycle it off Sunlight Wolf, so it'll always be pretty insane in this deck. You got 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Just a really solid hand trap right now. 1-for-1 kind of trade, but it gets the job done into like Snake Eyes or Low, like a lot of the 1-card starters. 3 Droll. So I'm on main deck Droll. I think it's really good, at least for the meta that I was going into. There was a lot of Runic Stun as well as Voiceless Voice. So just punishing those like deep draw decks or those like million searches is really great right now. Droll absolutely came in clutch. Really happy I played it. And then to round it out, we got 3 Nibiru. This card was pretty good. I didn't see it too much when it would have been clutch, but I still think it's a good choice this format. Especially post-ban list, now that a lot of generic negates are gone, this gets a lot better. And then the final card was 3 Infinite Impermanence. This is just probably the best hand trap because it doesn't lose to common hand trap counters, and it's a good 6th card. So it was a clean 40 cards. Hand trap wise, I was pretty happy with everything. I don't think I'd change it. But going into the next format, something you could consider is Ghost Ogre, so that might take one of the places of like Droll or something. As for the extra deck, we're on 3 Salamangreat Balinks. Gotta play 3. This is your starter, gets the Sanctuary, gives you protection in the grave. And frequently in your combos, you go through 2 for like the princess lines, so you want to have that 3rd one in the extra deck for turn 3. It comes up way too much. There's maybe other Link ones you could try playing, like Lingaribo in the Cyberse build, or even Almirage if you're bricked on hand traps, but I think 3 Balinks is just obviously the best way. We're on Sunlight Wolf and the relinked Ghost Rare Sunlight Wolf. So this card is not nearly as important as it was before. It's not like your end board, but it is still really good. This just gets you your grind, your follow-up. You'll frequently loop them with like Jaguar so that you can outgrind your opponent. It's honestly probably still really important, but I don't think you need 3. What I do kind of wish I was playing 3 of though is Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. I'm only on 2, and I kind of wish I had the 3rd. There were a lot of situations where it did come up, but it was alright. Salamangreat Raging Phoenix is what is your new boss. It searches any Salamangreat card, and it can revive itself when a fire is destroyed. He's really good in this deck. You'll use him to search your OTK pushes, your disruptions, and he just gets big. And then the one Mirage Stalio as just the best extender. This just gets you whatever you need from deck. This sets up the searchable Ash combos. It's the greatest extender, and it can even break boards with the bounce effect. Though honestly, you use it more to bounce your stuff these days. And the honorary Salamangreat, because it synergizes way too well. One Promethean Princess. This card is insane. I don't think there could possibly have been a better custom card for this deck. Promethean Princess is so broken, not just as a fire extender like in every deck, but the fact that you summoning stuff to your opponent's field triggers this is what lets you beat Nibiru. This card has single-handedly pushed this deck from barely rogue to a genuinely like solid threat. In terms of the non-staple stuff, we're on the Violet Chimera OTK package. So the way that it works is that if you have 4 bodies, you make Pit Knight early, you make Proxy F Magician, you use Proxy F effect to fuse with the Salad on board, train the Pit Knight early to negate and make something 0, summon Violet Chimera, it'll come out at least 4,000 attack, usually much bigger, and then when it attacks the thing that Pit Knight early made 0, it'll become double attack, and that's 8,000 per game. I think this is probably not as good as the other OTKs, like Zealantis OTK in the Cyberse build, for example, because you can't really do any sort of follow-up if it doesn't go through. But the advantage of this is that it's a really kind of a surprise factor. Your opponent doesn't really see it coming because it's so unfamiliar. And it's a lot better at actually going for game because you don't need to clear the board. You just need to connect with something. It was all pretty good. I think I got like 3 or 4 OTKs with it at the event, so pretty solid. I think this is the way to do it if you're on a fire build. One of the Fire Charmer, fire format, you're always going to steal it, but even outside of fire format, you do just want a generic fire link you can make. So it's like this, or like another card we're playing, Nightmare Phoenix. You just want something you can make with the Nib token, so it's still a body to help you link climb. This is still crazy right now though. It punishes Ash so hard and punishes like Promethean Princess, the other fire mirrors. It's great. In terms of Nightmare Phoenix, this was my answer to Summon Limit because decks like Voiceless Voice you hit with Bystials, decks like Snake Eye you hit with Nibiru. You go for your normal summon, link them both off immediately for Phoenix and make sure Phoenix is the last thing in the chain, so you hit the back row and try to get rid of the Summon Limit before they can lock you. It also is just good as a fire with an up-pointing arrow. I think it was pretty decent in this list. I'm happy I played it. It did end up outing a Summon Limit and winning me a game. And then finally, one Brotherhood of the Fire Fist, Horse Prince. This card is alright. This is how you search Ash. It can special level 3 fire from deck when synchro summoned. Weasel is your tuner, so that's how you make this. You summon Ash and use Mirage Stalio to bounce the Ash back to your hand when you link it off. In practice though, I never made this. I don't think it's actually that good, and I might drop this for the 3rd Raging Phoenix. The issue is kind of mostly just, you never want to make this because by doing so, you play really hard into Nibiru. Keeping Weasel in hand is how you beat that, and you need to use Weasel for this. So I think this is kind of cuttable. I think you're fine just drawing your hand traps, even if it's not Ash Blossom. The only matchup where I think this is good is Branded, because they're not on hand traps. Alright, in terms of the side deck for the event, we had 2 Dino Wrestler Tankertops, just my boy. Comes up in clutch, but I don't know. He didn't really perform too well at the event, so I'll probably cut him, as sad as it is to say. We've got the Bestials, 3 of them total, 1 Mag, 2 Druis. I've seen a lot of people do the Mag Druis Baldrake. In this deck, it just feels kind of weak. It's only really good if you draw multiples or draw like Nib. I just felt like generally I'd rather have my Bestials actually have like a plus kind of effect, like if you're adding a guy or getting rid of an opponent's guy. So this felt great. They were really clutch into Labyrinth as well as the Voices players. So I'm pretty happy with this lineup. I think they're here to stay. So one good one for this build is 3 Forbidden Droplet. So the other one I do just have in another deck, but this is what I was playing for the event. Droplet was really crazy. It's a way to get the Skull Guardian offline. It's a way to negate like fireboards. And the good thing is because Salamangreat of Fire is a Salamangreat, you can go Salamangreat of Fire effect, chain Droplet, so that you get it off board to dodge any removal. If they want to go like Imperm or something on it as Chainlink 2, and you outstuff, you can search Gazelle, and then Gazelle will trigger on res. Another key thing is that it halves the attack, so that makes it so you don't even need to make Pit Knight early for the Violet Chimera OTK. This card was pretty insane during the event. I think for the fire build, you should be running it. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, along with 3 Evenly Matched. This is just back row clearing and in general just board breakers. They felt pretty good. Harpies was a little low impact because of how much Runic was represented, but the Evenly Matched were crazy when I drew them. I honestly think these 4 are just all you need. In terms of going first cards, we had 3 Strike. Honestly, this kind of underperformed. I don't think Solemn Strike is the play this format. I thought it was pretty good into like hitting the normal summon for Snake Eye or just like any of the Link Climb pushes, but in practice, a lot of decks could just play through it, and it wasn't impactful enough, and it makes you really dangerous in time. So I'd probably cut this. I think going for the next format, Anti-Spell as a 1-of and Rivalry as a 1-of are probably what I'd play, and then maybe max out on another, like, going second card. But it was alright. So that does it for the actual deck profile. In terms of how I'd say this deck performed, it was a lot better than I thought. I was kind of just going for the fun of it, but really happy with how it did. Comparing it to other builds, I think you should probably go with the Debug Cybers build. You get to play SP Little Knight, you get to play like Baguska as part of your M board. Just a lot more generic options. You can throw in like Typhon, you can throw in Masquerena. It's a lot more free in what it can do. But there are advantages, like obviously the Salad of Fire being a Salad name is huge, and the Violet Chimera OTK being kind of unexpected versus like Zealantis is pretty nice. But it kind of depends on what you have. If you have the SP as well as the other cards, I'd say go for the Debug build. For this event though, I just kind of wanted to try this one out. This was what I've been testing a lot online, so I felt more comfortable with the lines. I will probably be testing the Debug build more and probably will go with that one in the future. In terms of other cards I would maybe play, Infernal Flame Banshee can dump Barrier Statue and now can also get Nemesis Protoss by way of Nemesis Flag. That's an option. I feel like it loses a little too hard to hand traps as well as like Nibiru, so I probably wouldn't go with it. I don't think it's optimal, but it's an option to consider. One thing I will say is really good going forward though is Salamangreat Mole. This is something I actually learned about in the middle of the event. This was an extender that I'd forgotten about. It can special summon itself to a link point if you've link summoned that turn. It also has like Pot of Avarice effect. It doesn't really come up, but it's alright. Most important thing though is it's a level 1 fire extender, so you can go Heat of the Fire Charmer, steal the opponent's Snake Eye Ash, and then go for that. You just get a lot of bodies, and honestly that's pretty good. So I might drop a foul for that in the future. But yeah, overall pretty good showing with the deck. I'm happy to have gotten 38th and pretty proud of my performance. In terms of shoutouts, I'd like to shout out Team Cyber Dragon. They hooked me up with that clean Ghost Rare Sunlight Wolf. Awesome stuff, love you guys. We play tested a lot for the event and we had a great time. Shoutouts to Yupei the GOAT, and shoutouts to the agency. Landorus-T making top 4 with the special set kind of added that innovation that really wanted me to change my list. I ended up maining Droll because of that. So shoutouts to OU, shoutouts to Smogon. Alright guys, this was the Salamangreat deck profile for Toronto Regionals. Thanks so much. I'll see you later.